Okay, today we have a meeting for GlobalNet21 which looks at the role of government in changing behaviour. Can it change behaviour, and should it change behaviour? We have Dave Clements with us today, who's one of the speakers, and Dave actually is involved in the Social Policy Forum and the Institute of Ideas, and he has strong views on this. Dave, do you think government should change behaviour?
No, there's a very short answer to that. It doesn't have any role to play at all in changing people's behaviour. Hopefully I'll have more to say about that today, but I think that the fundamental problem with the whole discussion is that the starting point is that people's behaviour should be changed and that government has a role to play in that. And I think we need to actually wind backwards and to start having a discussion about what the proper role of government is, what it isn't doing properly, what it should be doing, and then to start from that point onwards rather than assuming that people need their behaviour to be changed.
Do you not think in a time of climate change when we have resource limitations and people have to consume differently, behaviour does have to change?
Well, I wouldn't accept that in the first place. I think climate change happens to be just one of the topics around which behaviour change seems to be focused. Health is another one, parenting. There's a whole host of areas of debate which need to be debated in their own terms, first of all. I don't believe that behaviour change is the right response to climate change. I think that the correct response would be to make infrastructural changes where climate is a problem over the long term. I think it's very easy to go down the route of making inroads on people's freedoms in the name of saving the planet or making changes to the way we run our everyday lives. I think that's a massive problem and we can be very complacent about it.
But if we make infrastructure changes, or the government does, that in effect changes behaviour. So government, in a roundabout way, does change behaviour.
Absolutely. In as far as government has always played a role in relation to meeting wider social objectives, I think the difficulty is that behaviour change individualises that approach. It tends to create a different kind of relationship between government and citizens. It tends to assume that certain approaches are appropriate behind the backs of citizens, and I don't really care what the stakes may or may not be. I think the problem is that by taking that approach you completely ignore the views of most people.
So it's not so much what they do, it's how they do it.
Who, the government?
The government.
Yes, I agree. I believe it's the rationale on which government takes place that's important, not whether the ends are justifiable. Too often what tends to happen is that this discussion focuses completely on, we know what the ends have to be, whether it's reducing climate change or changing people's behaviour in relation to parenting, and therefore the only debate is whether the state should do it or whether we should find other ways of nudging people's behaviour in a more kind of localised way. I think that's a mistake.
Okay, Dave, thanks very much. Okay, this is Francis Sealey from GlobalNet21 signing off.